Have a brand new defensive coordinator, that and so much more on this episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Welcome back. Episode 376 of the Purple Rain podcast. The Ja Reed, John Simpson, just Jawan James episode of the Purple Rain podcast. A lot to talk about today. Surprisingly, wouldn't have been that much about 6-ish hours ago, but as you can see, we have a special guest with us. First off, you can follow us on Instagram here at the Purple Rain podcast. All the way over there, you can follow Sutton Def on Instagram or on X at Sutton Def. Me, Instagram simply as10.prod, X simply as10. And yes, like I said, we have a special guest, Mr. Cordell Woodland. Thank you very much for joining us here on this lovely Monday evening, this Monday, February 2nd. Ravens news to talk about in February, and it's not us playing. So definitely grateful for that. But how are you guys feeling? Beginning of a new week, beginning of a new month, and it's Super Bowl week as well.
It is. Go ahead, Cordell. Yeah, my bad.
Nah, man, I just appreciate y'all having me as always. And like you said, the off season hasn't even officially started yet, but gotten plenty of Ravens news. They've definitely kept us locked in despite not making the playoffs in this Super Bowl week, but they're still making headlines for sure.
Yeah, definitely making headlines. I mean, I mentioned to you before we went live here, I mean, this has been a very, very eventful offseason thus far, to say the least. We haven't even touched or sniffed free agency yet. Draft, of course, there's all the other stuff that comes after that, but free agency and draft I know those are going to be two more big dominoes to fall this offseason. So the fact that we've already got a lot of this news is super exciting. You know, it seems like it's a new overhaul. You guys see the thumbnail on this video says a new era for the Ravens, like quite literally, right? And you see the three hires, right? You have your head coach, you have your offensive coordinator now, and now you have your defensive coordinator as of just a couple of hours ago. Before we move on, though, again, let's give another round of applause for Mr. Cordell to come through visiting us here. Third time on the show. He's a friend of the show at this point. We appreciate him each and every time. Make sure you guys leave some W's in the chat for Cordell, man. Leave some W's in the chat for Cordell. And Alex, I might embarrass you later, too. I might have to do it.
Boy.
I might have to embarrass you later, Alex. I won't do it now. You want to keep it fresh? You want to keep it fresh? Okay. Yeah, maybe towards the end of the episode. But we do have a super chat donation. This one's coming from 86 Ghost. Shout out to the entire Rain Gang. Shout out to you guys coming through, already rocking out with us. We already got almost 100 people watching live right now on this episode 376 of PRP. Ghost says, Coach sent me not first, but got the first donation. Shout out to you, 86 Ghost. Shout out to Coach Evans as well. I was just in his stream about an hour ago. He does a really good job over there. Make sure you go subscribe to Sip2 Tally Films. But 86 Ghosts, yes, thank you so much, brother, for your first super chat donation. This one is for you, man. Let's clap it up for the first super chat donation. We'll do that too. Little air horn in there. Appreciate that. We're starting off strong. I see the W's in the chat for Cordell. Appreciate that, y'all. Let's give a shout out to our members here. Speaking of the members, our members are getting ready to realize, one of them is getting ready to realize a brand new free Lamar Jackson jersey of their choosing. That's right. We are still running that giveaway, and there is still time to get in on it if you have not already. So it's Super Bowl week, right? It's Super Bowl week. And Alex, I'm thinking Thursday episode, we announce the winner, no?
I like it a lot. I think we should. Yeah. Maybe right before the preview we give. So let's do it Thursday. So you have couple more days to get those final entries in to be nominated. So if you are a member of the channel, last time we checked, 28 members. So you have right now 1 in 28 chance of winning a free Lamar Jackson jersey, color of your choice.
Absolutely. And members like Shelly here in the chat says, hey, Sutton, Alex, and Cordell with the 2 purple hearts. Shelly automatically qualifies to be in the running for this jersey. Again, all you got to do is just join the Rain Gang channel membership. That's all you got to do. Join the membership over here on YouTube, and your name will automatically be entered for a chance to win that free Lamar Jackson jersey. Again, announcing the winner on Thursday night's episode 377 of PRP, the Daniel Falele episode. Right? Anyway, all right. So let's get into what we came here to get into. Again, shout out to all the members. Shout out to the entire Rain Gang in the chat. I see you guys in there. Appreciate that. IRMH says, "Hey Cordell, appreciate your work." We all do, man. We all do. I was rooting you on at the press conference last week. I was waiting for Cordell to get his question in the Jesse Minter, and I can't wait to talk to you about, all the insight that you've got for these coaches, this new era, this new regime. So, Alex, let's go ahead and start with the news we got earlier today.
Of course.
The Ravens have their defensive coordinator now. It is official. And Trey Biz just joined the Rain Gang membership. Appreciate you, Trey Biz. You're automatically in the running for that Lamar Jackson jersey. Appreciate that. But the Ravens earlier today announced that they were going to be bringing on Anthony Weaver, a very familiar face, a very, very familiar face to the Baltimore Ravens as their defensive coordinator. And, Cordell has actually had the chance to speak with Anthony Weaver on a couple of different occasions. So I really want to get his insight and his take on what he thinks about this. By the way, Void with the 5 gifted memberships. Appreciate that, Void.
Wow.
Void going crazy in the chat. Appreciate that. Round of applause for Void. Absolutely. We'll put that up on screen. For sure. Giving a lot of people a chance to win that jersey. If you got a membership from Void just now, make sure you shout him out. Give him a thank you in the chat. Void, you're the GOAT for that. All right, but let's talk Anthony Weaver. Let's talk Weaver. So I'm going to read this right off of the Baltimore Ravens website. Weaver is expected to be hired as the Ravens' new defensive coordinator under head coach Jesse Minter, per ESPN's Adam Schefter. Weaver, who is 45 years old, was originally drafted by the Ravens in 2002 and played defensive end for 4 seasons in Baltimore. He returned to the Ravens in 2021 as John Harbaugh's defensive line coach, run game coordinator, and assistant head coach. Now, Weaver and Minter did not cross paths in Baltimore. Minter was an assistant coach from 2017 to 2020, and Weaver was last in Baltimore from 2021 to 2023. It says Weaver left for Miami after Zach Orr was named the defensive coordinator in Baltimore after spending the past 2 seasons as the Dolphins defensive coordinator. Weaver will now reportedly get his shot. The only difference is that Minter already confirmed he is going to be calling the defensive plays on game days. And let me read this last little part here, and then I'll toss it to you, Cordell. A highly respected coach and leader, Weaver was seemingly a finalist for multiple head coaching jobs this cycle. He reportedly interviewed twice for the head coaching jobs in Baltimore and Pittsburgh. I actually did not know that part. As we have somebody making it rain here. Weaver also reportedly a favorite to follow Harbaugh to New York as his defensive coordinator, but Harbaugh decided to go with Denard Wilson instead. So all that leads to Anthony Weaver now being a Raven again. And personally, I love it. I can't get enough of it. I think this is probably one of the most underrated hires. Just an Anthony Weaver having prior play calling responsibilities, right? Coming to the Ravens where he's not going to have those responsibilities. And all he has to do is motivate. I love it. Cordell, what are your thoughts on it? What are your overall thoughts about Anthony Weaver in general? How are you feeling about it? Like it, love it, or hate it?
Yeah, no, I like it. I like it a lot. It's a lot of inexperience on his staff in certain roles. Guys have been around the league, obviously, and they've been a part of different coaching staffs, but a lot of these guys are coming into roles that they haven't been in before. So it is good to have a guy like Weaver, who, like you said, was an assistant coach for Baltimore. He understands the culture. That's one thing. That's kind of the one guaranteed positive when you bring people back in that have worked in the building before. They understand the expectation. They understand the culture, especially on that side of the ball. And in the case of Weaver, a lot of the guys on that team, he's already dealt with. You mentioned him being the D-line coach here recently in Baltimore. And the D-line got better and better, I think, under Weaver for the most part. So that's the good thing, is that the piece that he's had his hand on, we've seen succeed. We've seen them improve over time. And I think Weaver has the respect around the league for as a coach in general. I think that's why, a piece of why he continues to get all these interviews, and he did make it to the next round with the Ravens and Pittsburgh, like you mentioned. I think he's getting close. I would imagine if all goes well this time around, maybe he does get an opportunity as a head coach somewhere else, because, even though he's not calling plays now in Baltimore, he has done it, and Miami wasn't an elite defense by any means, but I think that's for more reasons than just, what Anthony Weaver brought to the table. So I like it. It takes a lot of pressure off of him, like you said, because Jesse has already said he's going to call plays, as he should. That's what got him the job in the first place. But Weaver is a guy that, is all about the details. And that's what his role is going to be. He's essentially going to be that mouthpiece that leads the meetings, that, sends Jesse Minter's message down throughout the defensive side of the ball throughout the week. It's going to be on Weaver to get those guys prepared. And Weaver will get all his information from Minter and everything. But that messaging is so important. It's very important to make sure that everybody's understanding what's being asked of them. And I would imagine now with the defense led by Minter, and then you've got Weaver basically as the second in command on that side of the ball, like some of the elementary issues that we've seen from the defense the last couple of years, I think for the most part, that's going to be gone because these are two guys that, have a real pulse of what they want their defense to look like, and they know how to communicate it. They both call plays on the defensive side, and both of them I do think has had some form of success. So I like it. I think Weaver will excel in this role. I do think he will be able to get Jesse's message across to the guys. And I do think the guys, he'll have their ear. He'll have their ear. He is a voice that does command the room. And I do think he'll get that respect. And that's one thing you talk about me knowing and being around Anthony Weaver and interviewing him. That is one thing that I've taken from him. He knows how to command the room. When he talks, he has a way of getting you to listen to certain words, the way in his delivery that makes it easy to digest too. So I am intrigued by this defense now. Now we'll have to see if EDC can kind of fix some of the personnel issues, but I'm liking the way that the coaching staff is kind of piecing itself together.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that. Alex, I want to toss it to you and ask you what you think about this. Before we do that, though, we do have a quick super chat donation. This one's coming from Twat Swat. Appreciate you, Twat Swat, with a $2 super chat donation. Says Fire EDC and Sashi Brown. Listen, man, I mean, that's for Steve and Stevie B only. You know what I mean? Sashi Brown, I don't think he doesn't really have too much of a hand in anything to really justify ever firing him, I don't think. EDC, we'll see. Right. But thank you so much for your super chat donation. Go ahead, Alex.
I'll tell you this. Sashi Brown, he is building the Ravens. There's more events at M&T Bank Stadium. He's doing his job just great. You have multiple concerts over the summer. You have the rugby game going on. Lionel Messi is coming to M&T Bank Stadium. A lot of events there at M&T Bank. I think he's doing a pretty good job right now getting fans in the stands there, even when it's not football season. But on actual football, I really do like it. I was kind of expecting a Jim Leonard type, a guy who never called plays in the NFL. I was expecting a younger candidate, but when you hear Anthony Weaver, been at DC before, has the Ravens ties. Say, well, we have a lot of Notre Dame ties now on this defense. You have Anthony Weaver who went there. You have Mike Mickens coming from there. Obviously, one of the leaders of the defense, like Kyle Hamilton going there. Definitely got some pieces there. It's hard not to be excited. Then when Sit the Tally drops 5 gifted, come on now. I mean, perfect timing.
Shout out to him. Shout out to Coach, man.
Perfect freaking
5 timing. Gifted in the chat. For sure. Appreciate that, Coach.
Back to what I was saying. Yeah, I'm definitely really excited. It caught me off guard. I know he was in the running for this, but I think back to that 2023 defense and that defensive line. Let me just pull up some stats right here. Nnamdi Madubuike, 13 sacks that year. Guys like Clowney, 9.5. Kyle Van Noy off the couch, 9 sacks. Oweh, 5. Patrick Queen, 3.5. Like, hell, Brent Urban, 3 sacks. Broderick Washington, 2. Like, we were seeing more and more sacks. I think we led the league with 60 sacks that year, I want to say, in turn of being a Triple Crown defense. So having that voice as well, like Cordell said, you have a bunch of quote-unquote younger guys, like we mentioned with Declan Doyle, 29 years old, no prior play calling experiences. Jesse Minter, first-time head coach. You can use a guy like him in the locker room, guy who's been here before, guy who's, that close, I'd say, to being a head coach. And I was worried he would go to Pittsburgh because I thought he would be a damn good head coach. Even a couple of my Steeler fan friends wanted him as their guy when they heard, kind of was between him and Brian Flores. They're leaning towards Anthony Weaver. I like it a lot. I'm not that love it. I think Jim Schwartz for me would have been that love it, but I'm like that close to being a love it right now. So I can't be mad at it whatsoever. I think it's just definitely the right hire.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and like both of you guys just alluded to, this is a guy who's going to come in and get those guys ready to play, ready to roll. I mean, Alex, you mentioned in 2023, finishing in the league with the most sacks in the league. And then, also like what Cordell was saying, like he has those guys. There's a way that he talks where he gets people to listen. I was listening to a clip earlier after, I think it was like a post-game presser after a Dolphins game where he's just kind of like telling the media straight up how it is, man. And I was locked in, ready to run through a wall my damn self, for next Sunday. So, I mean, I really do think that Jesse Minter really has a home run with this hire. And another reason is this. Jesse Minter, like we mentioned, he's going to be calling the plays, but I think he's also largely going to be designing a lot of the play calls as well. And if that's the case, then literally all you're putting on the plate of an Anthony Weaver who has called plays before, who I'm sure has designed plays before, all you're putting on his plate is saying, hey, look, have those guys ready to go, fire these guys up, hold these guys accountable. I think it's the perfect mix. Jesse Minter and Anthony Weaver, it's the perfect mix of brains and brawn, right? I think Jesse Minter with his defensive genius kind of brings in a lot of the brains, but then you also have Anthony Weaver who's got a lot of the brains as well, just because he's got the experience, but he also has that muscle. You know what I mean? He also has that muscle, that firepower. So I just think that overall, I think that defense is going to be a lot more ferocious next year. They're going to be flying around the field. They're going to be playing more confident. And when you're playing more confident, you play more physical. When you play more physical, right, you take the will out of offenses, right? And I think that that's something that the Ravens were missing. It seemed like offenses, once they got going on this Ravens defense, it was just all downhill. It was a snowball effect, right? And the defense couldn't really punch back ever. But I think this defense is going to be able to absolutely punch back in some big spots. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Let's see here who we have in the chat. I think we just got another super chat donation. Let me see. This one's coming from Olu. Says, Cordell, do you think that we keep Dr. Rush?
I don't know. My gut says probably not. When you bring in a new head coach, he wants to do things his own way. And he was kind of like an extension. And we're talking about I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. I know who we're talking. Basically, the sack doc, Chuck Smith. Who they brought in, who already had done a lot of work with the players all around the league individually in the off seasons. Usually, they brought him in as a kind of an extension of their coaching staff, and apparently, he was a hot commodity. So. I'm curious to see if Chuck even wants to hang around at this point. Like I said, when you get a new head coach, typically a lot of the changes happen in the coaching staff, and the Ravens haven't retained many coaches. I think outside of Santucci, the inside linebacker coach, I think he's the only one that's officially been retained on the defensive side of the ball. I know Randy Brown was also retained as well on the special team side. So, yeah, I am curious to see what happens with Chuck Smith, but my gut would probably say that he's gone.
Yeah, I could totally see that too. Now, another question I have for you gentlemen, and Cordell, I'll start this one with you as well. With Jesse Minter being the Ravens head coach, of course, defensive mind, he just hired Anthony Weaver. I want to know, Cordell, from you, which player on this Ravens defense who is will be back next year, obviously. Which player are you most excited for in their development? Are you most excited for maybe a Kyle Hamilton taking that next step for, what Jesse Minter was able to do with Derwin James in LA? Are you more excited for, I don't know, maybe like a Mike Green? And that's my answer personally, a young guy who's going to get coached up. He's going to get coached the hell out of by Anthony Weaver. I'm excited for him. I mean, there's a bunch of guys as well. Travis Jones, does he continue to take steps forward? Who are you most excited for, Cordell, on this Ravens defense with these new defensive hires at coach?
Yeah, I'm actually, Jesse Minter has the background with the secondary. Obviously, he coached the DBs with the Ravens. So, I am intrigued to see what he does with guys like Nate Wiggins on that side of the ball. See if Nate, who I think is already kind of developing well, Nate was one of the few people this year. And I know the end of the year wasn't necessarily great for him, but I thought for the most part, Nate had a pretty solid year, all things considering, individually at least. But I'm looking at the second level. I'm looking at the linebackers. I think the linebacker play in Baltimore has gone down the last couple of seasons, and it's probably not a popular take. But I think ever since PQ left, it's something that's gone off in that formula. They haven't been in sync. It just has not worked. It hasn't worked. Roquan, who was an all-pro last year, Roquan ain't been Roquan. And I don't think he's as bad as people say that he's been, but I don't think Roquan has been as good as he was when he got to Baltimore and even a year or two after that. I don't think Roquan has been to what he was when PQ was next to him. And I did like Teddy Buchanan. I thought Teddy Buchanan was playing really well once they actually committed to him. Obviously, the injury slowed him down. I do think Teddy Buchanan can kind of feel some of that, kind of give a little bit of that feel of what Roquan looked like when he had a PQ next to him, when he had a linebacker that he actually trusts, a guy that he didn't feel like, kind of made him think that he has to do everything out there on the second level. But I'm interested to see Jesse Minter kind of get Roquan Smith back to that true all-pro level. I think Roquan's still solid, but Roquan could be better than he's been. And I think obviously a lot of that plays into personnel. The defensive front goes a long way into how productive those linebackers are going to be behind them. And I do think the loss of Nnamdi Madubuike was felt all throughout the defense, especially in the middle of it. But I'm just intrigued to see Jesse Minter's impact on the better players of this defense, which is Roquan Smith smack dab in the middle. If they can get Roquan back to truly an elite level, then we can start talking about the Ravens defense being elite again. But if Roquan's not going to be at that level, the defense isn't either.
That's a fact. I mean, that's all facts right there. All facts. And, here at the Purple Rain podcast, we are personally Patrick Queen supporters. We are personally, advocates of Patrick Queen coming back to Baltimore and putting on that purple and gold. We really are. I mean, Patrick Queen is a friend of our show. He's been on here a couple of times, and we would love to have him back in Baltimore. But Alex, let me toss it to you now. Which players are you most excited about? And I got some in the tuck too. I got some in the tuck for myself that I was, I was thinking about as Cordell was talking. But I'm interested to hear what Alex says, because I feel like we might be on the same page. Which defensive players are you most excited for with this new defensive coaching staff?
So I'm going to kind of dig deeper. I'm going to go a TJ Tampa. I think from what we've seen from him, I think he definitely has some traits to be a serviceable guy for us. I think right now Marlon Humphrey is up in the air, and which is rightfully so. Was he a free agent? I know we're going to be kind of dependent on some of these younger guys taking the next step. And also, I'm going to throw in Aeneas Peebles as well. I think he really wasn't given a fair shot last year. Obviously, he didn't help or didn't really impact in the run game. But I think in the pass game, we saw him blow guys back and really just kind of get that rush that we needed from our interior guys. And losing to Madubuike obviously didn't help. But as for, the more well-known names, how can you not be excited with a Kyle Hamilton? The possibility of a Mike Green, who was a first-round talent, who showed life at times. Other times, kind of just it wasn't there. And then obviously at Wiggins as well. He found his hands. Feels like he finds his hands against the Browns. Loves playing the Browns. Can we play them every game this year? But in all seriousness, no. That Bears play where he kind of just read Odunze the whole route, jumped Caleb Williams, damn near pick six. And like you said, he definitely slacked off end of the year. That Packers game was really bad, but he really stepped back up in that Steeler game. I think he had 2 or 3 pass breakups, kind of short memory. All things you want to see from your number one cornerback or future number one cornerback. But guys like that, I think will take the next step. But I'm looking forward to TJ Tampa. He's shown us life, but obviously was dealing with some I words. But if he can stay fully healthy, sky's the limit.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about the TJ Tampa. That is quite the pull from you, Alex, and I like that. I like that a lot. I mean, you guys talked about secondary, so third level. You talked about the second level, the linebackers. I agree with everything you guys just said. However, and Kim, appreciate that sub. However, for me, the player that I'm probably most excited about that not a lot of people are talking about is Tavius Robinson. Tavius Robinson is a DN who's going to be able to, well, he's already proven he's able to stop the run. He can get after the passer as well, right? He can rush from the inside. He can rush from the outside. The guy is so dang versatile. I just think that with the right defensive coaches and the right motivation, Jesse Minter scheming him up and Anthony Weaver empowering him the way that we know Anthony Weaver will be able to do, Tavius Robinson can potentially be unlocked next season and go for, I think, 7+ sacks. Easy, right? I mean, we forget. Tavius Robinson went down. He got hurt, I think, sometime late in the first quarter of the season, something like that. But he was up there. in team sacks before he went down. You know what I mean? And like, I just feel like with a Jesse Minter, again, what he was able to do with the likes of an Adafe Owe last year on a short season, right? I think he could come to Baltimore and he could replicate some of that success for some of our lesser known edge rushers, like Atavius Robinson. I've been on record saying multiple times, I think Atavius Robinson is more of like a jack of all trades as an end and a master of none. But I feel like, again, with these two coaches here, Minter, Weaver, they're going to unlock his true potential. And we can see Tavius Robinson really, really secure himself a big payday based off of him being coached up by this new coaching regime. Top man, appreciate that sub. But yeah, I think we all had great answers. Tavius Robinson, linebackers, Teddy Buchanan, those type of guys as well. Trenton Simpson's another guy I'm looking at too. Again, Steven, appreciate the sub. Playing fast, playing physical, and playing instinctual is all I really want to see from this defense. And that's really going to open up all of the guys that we just mentioned. So love that. Love that. Love that. Let me see what else we have in the chat. What are y'all saying in the chat? Who's going to get unlocked? Who's going to get unlocked? Oh, yeah, real quick. Shout out to everybody who's not watching this episode 376 of the Purple Rain Podcast Live. If you're part of the hashtag replay gang, shout out to you guys so much. Make sure you go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Also, hit the like button, guys. Everybody watching right now, we got over 400 people watching live. Shout out to y'all. Make sure you hit that like button if you're watching over on YouTube. Again, this is the Purple Rain Podcast. We have a very special guest, Cordell Woodland, in the house. A lot of you guys know who he is. He's inside the castle, inside the walls, right? Asking the questions. He just asked Jesse Minter a great question earlier, which I want to get to that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and shift our attention here to the offensive side of the football, okay? Let's talk about the hire that was made on Friday. It was for offensive coordinator Declan Doyle, right? 1-year offensive coordinator under Ben Johnson in Chicago. Of course, that Chicago offense, they were kind of on and off in the beginning of the season, but they hit their stride towards the end of it. And Declan Doyle realized a lot of the credit for that, because that's the natural succession of things in the NFL. If you have a genius offensive minded head coach, whoever that offensive coordinator is, they're going to get looks. And Declan Doyle got a look from us. He is a Raven now. Cordell, I want to ask you, do you like the move? Do you love the move? Or do you hate the move? Me personally, and the Rain Gang knows this, I was not a fan of Declan Doyle as offensive coordinator, right? I would have preferred a tad bit more of experience, right? For me, like, this guy's 29 years old, right? Same age as Lamar Jackson. Cordell, do you think that will have any sort of effect, any sort of impact, either negative or positive, on the offense? And what are your overall thoughts on Declan Doyle as Ravens' new offensive coordinator?
Yeah, I'm indifferent right now. Like you, I thought that they'd go with a little more experience because, and I get it, people have feelings towards Todd Monken because of how this season went. They think back to the AFC Championship game, the lack of run game in that one. I mean, Todd definitely has his handful of lowlights, and I think a lot of those lowlights came in the most meaningful time of the year, a lot of times. But look, I can't escape the fact that during Todd's time at Baltimore, they've been an elite offense for the most part, unless 8 is hurt all year, or they have in the case of this year, one of the worst offensive lines in football. I can't ignore a lot of the reasons that I believe the season went off the rails for the Ravens this season, specifically on the offensive side of the ball. I can't put all of that on Todd Monken. I do recognize the pieces that Todd had a hand in, but I say it all the time. It's just so tough to call plays when you don't have an offensive line, and I don't think that became any more clear than when the Ravens would get in the red zone and they'd be stuck. They just going nowhere fast. The red zone is where the offensive line shows up, and they just couldn't do anything. They couldn't run the ball in short yardage situations. They couldn't score down in the red area. So I get all that, and I say all that to say, like I said, when Todd was there, they've had an elite offense. I don't know what the upgrade would have been. I don't know who the upgrade offensive coordinator would have been over Todd Monken. Even if you go Joe Brady, at what point, really, I don't think that Bills offense has necessarily been better than the Ravens offense the last 3 seasons. You want to go Cliff Kingsbury? I mean, look, everybody knows my allegiance. Everybody knows I'm a fan of the Commanders. As great as that offense was for Washington in Jaden's rookie year, I can't say that I've seen Cliff have sustained success the way that I have Todd at times. He can't ignore what he did at Georgia, winning back-to-back national championships with Stetson Bennett as his quarterback. He has a player-friendly system because it can adapt to the guys around him. So I say all that to say, now you're going from Todd to a guy that hasn't even called plays yet. I understand the ceiling could be high for Declan Doyle. It could be. He's worked under Sean Payton. He was just the offensive coordinator with Chicago, who I thought had one of the more balanced offensive attacks in the league. It could work, but I think when you're the Ravens and you're talking about winning championships now, and you move on from John, who's been there 18 years, and you've got so much stability, I thought that they would lean a little more on a more known commodity. But at the end of the day, I can't also ignore the fact that when Lamar Jackson is healthy, he's essentially coordinator proof. And I'm not saying that they should approach this hire as such, like, oh, it doesn't matter who we hire because we've got Lamar Jackson. Like, obviously, you still need somebody that can handle the job. You need somebody that'll get Lamar's ear. And that goes to your question about the age. Like, I don't, it shouldn't be an issue because at the end of the day, if he's coming with great ideas, if he has a great scheme, then his age shouldn't matter. But he is 2 months younger than Lamar. So that is a talking point, if nothing else. So I'm curious to see how this thing works. I did think that the Ravens needed more creativity, and maybe having a younger mind brings that. I'm kind of just in wait and see mode right now, but I can't sit here and say I'm head over heels about that hire. I'm kind of just going to see that one out.
Wow. I'm actually very surprised at that answer, Cordell. I thought you were going to be all in, all for it. But, I'm actually glad that we share kind of the same sentiment here. I think that at some point we have to realize that, like, okay, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit as well. The Ravens, I think, are squarely in a Super Bowl window, right? It is still very much so win now mode, even with this kind of slight, I guess you could call it rebuild, right? I mean, not necessarily like gutting the roster or anything, of course, like that, at least not yet. But with all these new coaches, this entire new coaching regime, we've kind of retooled a little bit, right? But at the same time, there's still sky high expectations in Baltimore to win a Super Bowl for the reason that you said. We have an MVP quarterback, a future Hall of Fame quarterback, future Hall of Fame running back, and the like. But when the going gets tough, and I think I mentioned this on the last episode of the show, like when it's fourth quarter, you're down 7 or 10 points or something like that, and you really need to like to call the correct plays to get this team to crawl the team back into the game. Will the bullets be flying a little bit too fast for a 29-year-old Declan Doyle who has never called plays before, right? I think that's my only concern. That's my only worry. Are we going to be in another situation where we're not utilizing Derrick Henry down the stretch of a game when we really need to? Are we going to be in another situation where there's some sort of miscommunication before on a second and goal? You guys remember the Pittsburgh game, a second and goal, near the goal line, and apparently there was some sort of miscommunication between John Harbaugh and Todd Monken, and they didn't get the play in time. That's another thing too. Cordell, how do you feel about coordinators being on the field as opposed to being up in the box? What are your thoughts on that? And we got a super chat donation after this, so we'll get to that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of all for whatever works for them. I wouldn't, if I'm a coordinator, if I'm an offensive coordinator, I probably would like the bird's eye view. I probably would like to be up in the box too, just because you have a better viewpoint of what's actually happening out there. The trade-off is you're not able to get that, on-demand communication with the players as they come on and off the field. So you got to utilize the phone. You got to get somebody on the phone, but your communication with the players is going to be slightly limited because you're up in the box. But I'm indifferent. I feel like whatever helps the coach see the field, And look, on another point about Doyle, he obviously impressed to get this job. I have read up on him. He has a lot of people that will talk about his professionalism, his attention to detail, how he is able to communicate. He essentially ran all the meetings in Chicago for Ben Johnson, who called the plays out there. While it is a step up, attention to detail would usually be a concern for me when you talk about a younger coach coming in and taking over. Just making sure they dot every I and cross every T. It doesn't seem like that's necessarily an issue for him. So that does give you, optimism. But it does seem like he's impressive. When you talk to anybody that's dealt with him or been a part of a meeting that he's run, a lot of people do give him credit for that.
Yeah, they absolutely do. And I want to talk in a second about what the expectations might be for this Ravens offense, because I read some things earlier on what he really likes to do. He likes to run a lot of pre-snap motion, and I'm thinking to myself, like, well, yeah, the Ravens in the past couple of years, they were doing that a lot too. But then I realized that the Ravens were only doing it at a 52.9% clip, as opposed to with under Declan Doyle's offense with the Bears last year, they were running it 62% of the time, which is above league average. So I think that guys like Zay Flowers, he's going to love that, pieces like that. And we could potentially see some innovation from this Ravens offense, even a step further than what we saw with Todd Monken. And I'm excited about that. My thing is just when the pressure, when the lights get the brightest, you know what I'm saying? I just don't know exactly how he will stand up and respond to it. I hope he stands up tall, but we'll see. Alex, before we get to your take here, we do have some super chat donation. This one's coming from Olugunyemi 3356. Appreciate you so much dropping the 10-piece donation in the chat, making it rain here on this episode of the Purple Rain podcast. Olu says, excited to see what Malachi Starks that is, can do with Jesse Minter. The new O-line coach will be huge. His name is Dwayne Ledford. And ask Cordell, hey, Cordell, what about the strength and conditioning guy? We finally figured it out. The new OC can be Lamar Jackson 8 being Thanos. What do you think about that strength and conditioning guy?
Are we talking about Scott Elliott still, or you said?
I think he is talking about Scott Elliott. Or we didn't hire anybody new, did we?
To my knowledge, I don't think we
did.
Yeah, I think Scott Elliott is still the guy there, and that's something that could be changing by the day. As the staff is still getting pieced together. But yeah, Scott Elliott is still officially the guy there. I mean, I'm indifferent. I don't think that this year, obviously, the injuries piled up on the Ravens. I think, going back to training camp, a lot of us that covered the team, one of the things that we kept saying was this team has been, unusually healthy the last few seasons. I think it was last year going into the playoffs, the Ravens had perfect attendance at practice. That's not usually the norm for a lot of these teams. So I think that this was just a freak year where it was a lot of things piling up, especially once you have Lamar's injuries start to just rack up, and it just really spread throughout his entire lower body. Everything was on the injury report for him. I'm curious to see how they'll look at that, but I think for the most part, I don't think that you'd watch the Ravens and think that they're gassed, at the end of these games. And like I said, the injuries, other than this past year since he's taken over, I think it's been around league average. So I don't think that, that's a much needed change, but we'll see what Jesse wants to do.
For sure. Let me see here. We got another super chat donation coming in from 86 Ghost. Appreciate that, dropping the 5-piece in the chat. 86 Ghost brings up a good point. Says Nate Shieldhouse never called NFL plays either, and he's the offensive coordinator with the Rams. I addressed this on the last episode of the show. I personally just have more equity with the Sean McVay tree than I do with the Ben Johnson tree. The Ben Johnson tree is probably about like this tall right now. You know what I'm saying? It's not that tall. That Sean McVay tree, it go up. I'm talking. They've been in Super Bowls before. They've been there. They've done that. So I just think that the experience that he's underneath, Nate Shieldhouse, does give him a leg up for me in terms of who I would have preferred as offensive coordinator for the Ravens. Hopefully that answers your question, 86 Ghosts. I know it's probably not the best answer. It's not the most analytical answer, whatever. But that's where I'm at with it. Let me see. JD with another super chat donation says, what's your ideal offseason free agency or trades? Okay, this is a good one. This is a good one right here. Alex, we'll go to you first on this one. What is your ideal offseason? I mean, free agency right around the corner. We've talked about some of those big ticket players that Eric DaCosta hinted at a couple of weeks ago, potentially going out and pursuing. What do you think? What is your ideal offseason? Free agency trades? Tell me what you think, Alex.
Real quick to dig even deeper about the coaching. I mean,
sure,
Declan Doyle can come from the Sean Payton tree if we do want to go down that route because he was with them, But to go to the free agency, I've been on record. I want a premier ticket edge rusher. Obviously, I would love Max Crosby. I don't think that'll happen. But if I could dream on one, that's one. But I think more realistic is a Trey Hendrickson. I think getting a guy like that, him in there is huge. And I think if you do extend Lamar, I think you can easily make it happen. And then addressing trenches. So that goes signing a guard first and foremost, and then using one of your top 3 picks on a guard as well. I think it's time we address the trenches, the O line. I think it's time for a revamp. Obviously, we had the whole segment, the keep or walk segment last week, and we both said we would keep Linderbaum, but at the right price. For me, I'm around that 20 million range. I think Creed Humphrey is just kind of well and above. He excels in the playoffs, and my problem with Linderbaum, I think I've seen him get beat too much on tape in the playoffs. I think that's what's really holding me back from giving him that big contract. But outside of that, it's just addressing the trenches. Would love Awuzie back, I think, for what we got him for and his level of play. I think he was stellar last year. I really had no complaints with it. Obviously, the Pittsburgh, the trade-off, he let him go in and we have a whole new coaching staff. I'll live with that. I'm not mad. But I pulled up the free agents coming up this upcoming offseason guards. You got guys like Wyatt Teller who are free agents. You have even tackles, Cam Robinson. I don't think we'll be in the market for any of tackles. And then Kevin Zeitler as well, an old friend. He's approaching 36 years old, so wonder if we'd be back on that reunion. But I think there are guys out there that can help us in the guard area. So addressing the trenches and hopefully getting the secondary right as well. Definitely what I would be going for.
Yeah. And Cordell, for you, what is your ideal offseason? Is there anybody you would want them to target in free agency? Anybody you would want the Ravens to target in a trade? What are you thinking there?
Names specifically, I don't really have names like he mentioned, Max Crosby obviously has been like a part of everybody's wish list, but I got to see the Ravens be willing to pay that tab. Are they willing to give premium picks and maybe then some for Max Crosby? I don't know what the asking price is going to be, but I know the Raiders aren't just going to give him up willingly. I also think that they need to obviously make sure they start hitting on some of these premium positions in the draft. They've taken swings on edge rushers, but they aren't really hitting on them. And I'm not throwing Mike Green into any type of boat. I'm still, waiting to see what that looks like. He's definitely flashed. He's had moments of brilliance, and now you've got a defensive coach taking over at the helm. So I am extremely intrigued to see how that impacts him going forward. And a lot of it, honestly, is just developing the talent that they have. If some of the edge rushers that they have on this team already, you mentioned Tavius earlier, Mike Green starts to blossom. Like if some of the in-house guys really start to step it up, then you are playing with house money. But I do think they've whiffed on quite a few of these edge rush draft picks that they've had. Got to start to hit on those. Same with the offensive line. I understand they need cheap labor somewhere. You can't pay top dollar to every position. So that means you got to start hitting on some of those draft picks, and the building up the trenches is going to be huge for them. Figuring out what's going. I guess they probably already know what's going on with Nnamdi Madubuike, but we don't. And whatever is going on, what is the plan with that? What is the plan with that? Whether he's there or not, especially if he's not going to be there, what's the alternative? How are you going about now fixing, which is a huge gap on your team now with your best defensive lineman now off your team? And I like Travis Jones. Obviously, they invested in him and he had a really good year, but he hasn't matched what Nnamdi brought for them at his best.
Yeah, he just can't do it alone.
Yeah, definitely. The Eagles, I think, have the formula. The Eagles have shown you for years. The Eagles have invested in the trenches, and they have waves of pass rushers. They will send them out to you in different units. And that offensive line, man, Lane Johnson, granted, their offensive line wasn't great this year. And I think in large part due to Lane Johnson not being there. But for the most part, the Eagles' offensive line is always one of the elites too. So that's not easy to do. But you look, the Eagles are always busy in the offseason. They're always busy during draft weekend. Nothing is off the table for them. Just when you think that their team is good enough, they make another move. So sometimes it's about overkill, and they still are cap compliant, so it can be done.
Yeah. No, I like that. Sometimes it is about overkill. Go ahead, Alex. My bad.
Weren't they in the mix for Micah Parsons last year too? Like they had the Rocks to even throw a offer to their biggest rival in the Cowboys. I mean, I respect it. I mean, that's what you got to do. Just dip your toe in the water. If you get pulled in, you get pulled in. I mean, I would love for us to follow that suit. I mean, like you said, it's like any big player, they're going to have their hand in there. They're going to send an offer. You're going to hear about it, and they might get them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely right about that. Sometimes you just got to push your chips to the middle of the table and see what happens, Let me see. We got another super chat donation. This one's coming from Gerald, making it rain, pulling up from the parking lot. Clap it up for Gerald, y'all. Clap it up for Gerald. Yeah. True Purple Rain pioneer here in the chat, making it absolutely rain, making it thunderstorm here on this episode of the Purple Rain podcast, dropping the 50 piece in the chat. Alex, he's pulling up from Camden Yards, isn't he? Camden, the parking lot. We appreciate that, bro.
2021, man. Just 5 years ago, it's in the same thing. Nothing's changed.
Alex, you want to go ahead and read this one for us?
Yeah, of course. I'm excited going for it, and I'm looking at that last play number 8 LJ made during the final minutes against the Steelers. That was a fantastic play, and that is the Lamar Jackson we hope to see in the 26-27 season. Let me just take this real quick. That's him on basically like one leg. You know what I mean? Like we've seen this time in, time out, just him doing this, and how banged up he was, like Cordell mentioned, it was the ankle, the leg, the foot, the toe. It was everything, the hamstring. And to go out there and, in a place where he hasn't played his best, kind of, Boogeymanville, Acrisure Stadium, the magic they have there, went out there, put together multiple game-winning drives, and just that last play to, buy time with guy in your face and find Isaiah Likely, fantastic catch by him. And then even the play on the series before that, taking the hit, finding Zay deep. That's why you pay him the money you pay him, and that's why he's your franchise quarterback. So I hope I can see him healthy next year because you'll get many more of those plays. Hopefully him protected and more deep balls like we've seen before. Just the F you. Sitting back there all the time in the world. F it, somebody's down there. Touchdown.
The F you. I've never heard that one before, but I love it though. I love it though. I have not. I heard the LeBron one.
Yeah, they have one for
I didn't know Lamar had his. I didn't know that. See, news to me. I love that, though. I'm going to start using that. But Gerald, appreciate you so much, man, for your super chat donation. Gerald is a Purple Rain pioneer around these parts. Been around watching the show for a long time. So, Gerald, we appreciate you. Tip my cap to you, man. Tip my cap to you. Let me see. We have another super chat donation coming from Swat again. Appreciate that. Says W collab with the fire emojis. Appreciate that, man. We try to bring on some good guests for you guys here at PRP. Most recently, of course, we got Cordell. A couple weeks ago, we had Coach Evans. We had Hoodie Ramey on here. We're trying to bring more guests, so we appreciate y'all rocking out and supporting us every step of the way. Over 530 people watching live right now on this episode. Was it 376 of the Purple Rain podcast? Shout out to each and every one of y'all watching live. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel as well if you want more Ravens content just like this. As you guys know, it's all gas, no brakes this offseason. This is a totally different offseason than what we're accustomed to, especially in the Lamar Jackson era. It's a totally new regime, right? It's a totally new era. The baggage is no more. It feels like a weight has been lifted off of our shoulders, right? And we're full speed ahead into next season. And that means this podcast is full speed ahead into next season and has been for the past couple of weeks. So if you want to stay locked in with us, again, be sure to subscribe and like the video as well. And then also, got to bring it up again, jersey giveaway Thursday. Right? If you want to get put in the running for that jersey giveaway, make sure you go ahead and sign up for our channel membership. It is $4.99. You can see the little join button down below somewhere near the description. If you join that, you are automatically entered for a chance to win a free Lamar Jackson jersey of your choosing, the color of your choosing, which we will be announcing on Thursday's episode 377 of the Purple Rain podcast. I got one more Declan Doyle question before we move on, fellas. One more Declan Doyle question. And I mentioned this before. Cordell, I'm going to toss this one to you. With the current landscape of the NFL and how the order of succession goes, right? These young offensive coaches seem to be the hot ticket item right? For all of these franchises, everybody wants the next young offensive-minded genius, the next Ben Johnson after what he did this season, his first year as head coach for the Bears. You guys know the McVays of the world, all those guys, right? And you mentioned Lamar Jackson is low-key kind of coordinator proof. If Lamar stays healthy, right? Most people stay healthy on the offense, right? And the Ravens are averaging 29 plus points per game and muster up 10 to 12 wins, which is totally possible. Do you think that Declan Doyle will be gone after 1 year? Do you think that somebody will come and poach him away from the Ravens? Because me personally, I do. I think he's a 1 year rental. Everybody around me has been trying to tell me, oh, no, he'll be here 2 to 3 years, son. He's only 30 years old. He's super young. You know what I mean? They don't hire guys that young. That's bullshit to me. Okay, I think that around the league, it's been proven that they want to go with these younger coaches. So Cordell, what do you have to say to that? Do you think that it'll be a 1 year rental, or do you think he'll stay for longer?
I mean, yeah. I mean, McVay, I thought was hired at 30. I think McVay got the opportunity, at least as a coordinator, for sure. He was 30. I have to check and see how he was as a head coach, but I thought he was 30. But I mean, it's definitely possible. Definitely possible. I mean, the NFL is always looking for the next big thing, the next great play caller. And these offensive coaches have been just, they've been going crazy here recently. It hasn't been a lot of failures on that side here over the last couple of years. Um, and look, McDaniel's situation in Miami fizzled out probably faster than people thought it was, considering how hot it was when he first got out there. But yeah, I mean, this could be a situation where the Ravens offense all of a sudden, gets back to their usual status, and you know he's a guy that everybody wants to go after. Now, how much are they going to hold his personnel against him? I don't know. And how long does he wants to stay? I don't know what their deals are, what's said behind the scenes or what agreements they're making. But I do know all these coaches want one of the 32 jobs in the league. It's not many times you're going to see a head coach or any coach turn down a head coach opportunity. So if he's getting looks, I think if nothing else, he'll probably take some of the interviews. Maybe he doesn't get a job right after year one, but it wouldn't shock me if the Ravens are back to their elite ways offensively, if he's at least getting interviews and he's having his name tossed around. Because like I said earlier, he already has a lot of respect around the league and from his peers. And if he's able to come in and now you've got a healthy Lamar, Derrick Henry isn't hitting the cliff that everybody's waiting for him to hit, and the offensive line is good enough, and maybe Mark turns back the clock and starts to make that extension look pretty good for the Ravens. I don't know, but if all goes well, I would be highly surprised if Declan Doyle's phone isn't ringing. Will he take the job? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing for me is I think that he's going to have a very high profile offense here in Baltimore. And what I mean by that is that not only do you have Lamar Jackson, but it's a well-known fact that Declan Doyle and Ben Johnson in Chicago this past year, they did not shy away from like trick plays, stuff that like really, really gets the media's attention. There was one game where Caleb Williams caught like 2 or 3 passes in one game. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like if we see any of that type of stuff here, and Lamar Jackson's going to make that stuff look even better than what a Caleb Williams will make it look like. I think that just teams around the league, they're going to look at that. They're going to say, hey, look, that's our guy. That's our guy. Whether, I don't really know which teams it might be next year that are looking for a head coach in that cycle. But I just think that, man, with these offensive coaches and the way that they're going, they're selling like hotcakes nowadays. You know what I mean? Like the next guy up is normally an offensive guy for the head coaching spot, and that's just statistically. We do have another super chat donation. This one's coming from Tila, one of our members in the chat here. It says W show fellas, appreciate you, Tila, making it rain here on this episode 376 of PRP. She drops a $5 super chat donation. Tila, we thank you so much, making it rain here. As usual, Tila's a daily supporter of this channel as well. We love her. We appreciate her. Okay. So let's go ahead and move right along, fellas, as we're about 53 minutes into this stream. What else do we got? We have okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about, and Cordell, this is where I want to clear the floor for you, because none of us have any sort of familiarity with Jesse Minter. I know you might not have had, the most conversations with him, asking him the most questions yet either, because he's still new. But you did ask him a question last week at the presser, at his introductory press conference. What was that question that you asked him, and what did he answer with, and what did you take overall from like the energy and just kind of like, do you think that this guy realistically can be the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, lead these guys into battle and into victory for the next 10, 15, hell, maybe even 18 years? What do you think about Jesse Minter? What's the truth about Jesse Minter in your eyes?
Yeah, I mean, well, I asked him about Kyle Hamilton specifically, and just, his plans for taking Kyle's career to the next level. I'm a huge Derwin James fan, and it's not lost on me how, obviously I think Derwin has had a great career, but Derwin, for a stint there, the injuries started to pile up and the playmaking went down, and you just weren't seeing Derwin impact games the way that that he can, and the way that he's shown us that he can throughout his career. And all of a sudden, Jesse Minter comes out there, and it's not like that offense for the Chargers has been great. It hasn't been. It hasn't been world beaters. It's not like the Chargers are putting up 30 points a game. And yet that defense, they show up every week. And I really liked how he got his stars to kind of lead the charge on the defense. He used Derwin James all over the place. He moved them all over the field. And when I asked him about Kyle Hamilton, he just talked about positionless football and getting Kyle as close to the action as possible, allowing him to be the playmaker that he is. I don't really see a lot changing for Kyle, to be honest with you. I think the Ravens have used Kyle in pretty much almost every way you can. I'm not saying that there aren't some wrinkles and elements that they can probably lean into a little more, but I do think the Ravens have utilized Kyle Hamilton in a multitude of ways. And we've seen, how he's helped this defense by being more of a traditional drop back safety. And we've seen how he's helped this defense by getting inside the box pretty much every play. We've seen him be a nickel corner. We've seen him blitz. We've seen him do it all. So I don't know if Jesse Minter is necessarily going to reinvent the wheel with Kyle Hamilton, but it's all about, if you want to be a great player, keeping that consistency and allowing players to ascend. I mean, at one point I thought Lamar had reached his peak, and then he just kept going, and he's just flown by how great I thought he could actually be. So that's definitely could be the case for Kyle. But I think Jesse is an energetic guy. You could tell his energy right away just by talking to him. I do think he understands how to get to his play. He'll probably, be accepted a lot easier by some of the younger guys on the team. And contrary to belief, this Ravens team does have a lot of young players on it. It's quite a few of them. I think he can talk, the talk with them, the lingo. I think he can stay up. He can stay current with them to the point, and it won't make it seem like, it's his way or the highway. And look, like you said, I haven't been able to really sit down one-on-one and get to know him. But just by doing background work and being in the building for his press conference the other day, it does seem like a guy that, people feel like they can work with, as opposed to working for, or, feeling like is his way or the highway. I think he's a guy that will relate to the players much better. I think that, and they're in the honeymoon phase right now, so everything's going to be great. It's all smiles right now. Let's see what happens, when we get into the games and they lose a heartbreaker at home to a team that they're an 8-point favorite against. Like, those things are going to happen. It's football. It's inevitable. But I think that he's a guy that can keep that positivity. And that was one of the strengths for Harbs until it wasn't, that Harbs could keep them from going completely off the rails. Even if they got in a rut, Harbs could kind of say whatever needed to be said to get them ready to play that next game, to get them to believe that they can fight themselves out of that rut. I think Jesse can do that as well, especially initially. He's a smart mind. I think he is going to bring some innovative schemes to this defense that does help kind of camouflage some of their flaws. And I think he is a leader of men. But at the end of the day, he's a new head coach. There's going to be some growing pains, like I said. I don't know if Jesse Minter is going to be here for 18 years. We don't know. This is uncharted territory. And the reality is, the average team in the NFL goes through multiple hires. They it doesn't always work out. So I'm kind of prepared for everything, but I do think Jesse is inheriting a team that has enough top end talent to make this work, assuming EDC does what he's supposed to do.
Yeah. And it's funny, him talking about that, Alex, you had mentioned, I think on the last episode of the show, or maybe it was 2 episodes ago, you were saying that, like, maybe Jesse Minter can come in and kind of talk the talk with some of these younger players and relate to them, So it's funny that Cordell just brings that back up, because I totally agree. Now, listen, guys, one more thing. Before we get into our last topic of the episode, somebody brought this up, and I would be remiss if I did not bring it up on screen here. This one's coming from a supporter of the channel, Flagship Fantasy. Says, Cordell, what are your thoughts on T. Martin's status? Sutton, ask him. He says, and here I am. I got you, Flagship Fantasy. T. Martin's a guy who, a lot of people may feel like he got passed over in a lot of ways, and he's been kind of working as the QB coach for a little bit now. And what are your overall thoughts on T. Martin, Cordell?
Yeah, I've always liked T. He has, obviously he has Lamar's ear. He's been a really good liaison, kind of that great middleman, and I think he and Todd Monken, it seemed like they understood each other well, because whatever Todd needed to get to Lamar, T was able to get that to him, and exactly the way that Todd wanted it to. And if Lamar had something for Todd, T could get it to him. Like I think T Martin served this role really good as a quarterbacks coach. In terms of, I would imagine I've already seen that the reports that the Ravens are looking at guys for their quarterbacks coach position. So I don't believe T Martin is, as of right now, plans to be on this coaching staff the way that it seems. But he's definitely got a lot of respect. I do know that there were people fighting for T Martin inside the building to be able to get a shot as their offensive coordinator, but it didn't go that way, and that's kind of how it goes sometimes. I'm curious to see what his next stop is. But yeah, it doesn't seem like he's going to be on this coaching staff next year, and definitely, obviously, he's not going to get the OC job.
Yeah. Now, Alex, we got the last topic. Okay. And by the way, guys, I'm going to embarrass Alex really quick before we get into this last topic. Tomorrow is Simply AS10's birthday. Tomorrow is Simply AS10's birthday. Our guy Alex. Let's clap it up. Let's put some happy birthdays in the chat. You know what I'm saying? Let's show him some love. Let's show him some love here on this episode of the Purple Rain podcast, man. Shout out to our guy Alex having a birthday tomorrow. I had to do that. I couldn't let you get out of this episode. We got over 500 people watching live right now.
It's the 13th anniversary of the Ravens Super Bowl 47 win. That's what's more important than my birthday.
Okay.
So
fair.
If you say so.
Yeah. That's the most. But thank you. And appreciate that.
Yeah, of course. And you see the chat's going off. Chat's going crazy right now with the happy birthdays in the chat, the cake emojis, everything. We love that. Appreciate y'all. Happy birthday, Alex. Happy birthday, man. But okay, you mentioned what is he turning 21? That's crazy.
I appreciate that. I do. Thank you.
But okay, you mentioned the Super Bowl. Ironically enough, that is actually going to be our last topic. Yes. The whole Super Bowl or bust thing, right? How are we feeling about that in 2026, going into this in this first season of Jesse Minter as head coach? And do you think that the Ravens Super Bowl window is closed? Because a lot of people in the media are saying now, with the Lamar Jackson contract situation, again, with the powers to be, the new powers to be in the AFC, you got the Broncos now, you got the Patriots, who are no longer little bro, right? So it's not going to get any easier for this Ravens team to realize their third Super Bowl in franchise history coming up this year. Alex, we'll start with you on this one.
Okay.
Birthday boy. What do you think about this Ravens Super Bowl window as of right now? Do you think it's still wide open, or do you think it's narrowly open, or do you think it's closed?
I'm not going to say wide open. It's definitely still open. I saw Colin Cowherd's comments on this. He said our window was closed, which I just can't agree with that. I think we still have the core pieces. I think we've talked about them all this episode. We've talked about who we're excited to grow. You have Lamar Jackson. You have Derrick Henry, who to me showed no signs of slowing down last year. Obviously, he was behind a pretty poor O-line, but still put up a good amount of yards, good amount of touchdowns. Turned it on when it mattered. When it got cold out behind that line, 4 touchdowns in the game we had to win. Even the Steelers game was running all over him the first half. Receivers, I think you can always add another receiver. I like who we have, but I'm not opposed to adding somebody else. And defense, I think it's just Jesse Minter unlocking guys. We've mentioned it weeks and weeks and weeks. Jesse Minter was doing more with less in LA. If he can go and do the same thing with us with the talent we have, I think they can be, not saying best in the league, but definitely top 5. So I think that window is wide open. I still have my question marks about the Chiefs. Mahomes is obviously great. Coming off of a serious injury, we've seen quarterbacks be different. I'm not wishing any ill will. I think Kelsey coming back hurts them more than helps them. I'll tell you that. It's kind of like my bold prediction. And the Bills, I'm not too sold on Joe Brady. So for all like the big threats in the AFC, I like where we're at, but obviously the Broncos, great future. Patriots as well, great future. But let me see them with the number 1 overall schedule.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Cordell, what are your thoughts on this Ravens Super Bowl window? Is it still wide open? I mean, should the Ravens be odds-on favorites to make it out of the AFC next year? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about the favorites. They do have some personnel holes to figure out on this team. I still would like. I mean, until they get a bona fide pass rusher, is going to be tough to really view them as like the absolute favorite again after the way that this year went. You need a pass rusher. They just do. But that said, I do think their window is wide open. I mean, Lamar's 29. Everybody's acting like that's so old. It's not. Um, I still think, as long as Lamar is upright and healthy, the Ravens are going to have a chance. I think they have enough top end talent to compete. Derrick Henry, like Alex said, isn't slowing down no matter how much a lot of people are waiting for it to happen. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to happen next year. I think they still can beat teams. I think that it's all about the situation. And look, everybody looked at the Bills this year and it's like, oh, it's Josh Allen Super Bowl to lose. There's no Mahomes, no Lamar, no Burrow. All these is nothing but young quarterbacks and unproven teams. And they lose in a divisional round. I mean, it's a wacky game, man. You just can't predict some of this stuff. The Patriots actually take advantage of their kind of marshmallow schedule in the playoffs, and they end up in the Super Bowl. So it's a year to year league, honestly. I do think the Ravens will be there as long as number 8 is on the field. They absolutely will have a shot to win it, and I believe in the natural boost in the NFL when you either get this rookie quarterback. We've seen that the last few years. Teams just get this boost. Most teams do, at least, and teams that get a new head coach. And I do think that the Ravens will get that boost from the new voice in there. I firmly believe John's messages had just gotten stale in that locker room. I do think the fresh atmosphere will be a good change for those guys in the locker room.
I love that. And, it's funny that you mentioned, the message getting stale and then Harbaugh having to go so we can get a new guy in there to kind of lead the charge. Cordell, the first time you came on the show was right before the season started, this past season started. And it was me, you, and Kevin Ostreicher, I believe. And we all kind of shared that same thing. It was like, if it doesn't work out this year, that means the message has gotten completely old, completely stale, and we got to move on. I'm actually very, very happy that Steve Bisciotti stepped in, this offseason and said, okay, enough is enough, right? We got to go in a different direction. John, you're my friend, one of my best friends, but you got to go because it's just not working out anymore. I love that. And again, that's why it feels like the baggage really isn't impacting us anymore. See, normally by this time of year, the Ravens have gotten eliminated from the playoffs in some capacity, right? And I'm still kind of down in the dumps on football, and I barely even want to watch the Super Bowl. But again, it feels like the Ravens have fully turned the page. And I think that, like you mentioned, that just extra juice right there will be what I think they need to get over the hump this season. So we'll see. We'll see. I don't think that the Ravens Super Bowl window is closed at all. Like you mentioned, Lamar is still young. And people say that, oh, he's 29 years old and he's a running quarterback, so that's not good. And it's like, okay, well, you guys obviously have not been paying attention to how he's developed as a passer over the past couple of years, right? So I think this is going to be another year of the Ravens proving everybody wrong. Do I want to say Super Bowl favorites? Not really. Again, just because you've got so many good teams in the AFC now. So many good teams. And the normal suspects, again, aren't even around this year. But I think that they're going to be back with a vengeance next year. It's going to be tough. But I do think our Ravens can get it done. Now, to wrap it up, again, guys, appreciate y'all for coming through to this episode of the show. Like the video, subscribe to the channel as well. And a big shout out to Cordell Woodland for coming through and rocking out with us for the last hour and 10 minutes. I got to end it with this, though. Super Bowl's this weekend. I just want your pick. Who's your pick? Can you give me a score prediction, maybe? What are you thinking for the Super Bowl? What is it? What is it? Super Bowl 60 or what is it again this year? 60. Yeah. What do you think happens in Super Bowl 60, Cordell?
It wouldn't shock me if this is a similar. I forget what the Super Bowl number was, but it was the beatdown that the Seahawks put on Peyton Manning and the Broncos that year that they met them and it started immediately. I think Cam Chancellor put a hit on rest in peace Demaryius Thomas, and right away you kind of understood what that game was. The Broncos did not want anything to do with the Seahawks. I think it could go that way, honestly. I think that Seahawks defense is so ferocious, and that New England offense has honestly been putrid. I mean, the Drake May has not valued the football. He hasn't thrown the ball that great either. And Ramondre Stevenson, the run game, I don't know if their run game is good enough to really carry them, especially against that defense. I mean, Seattle's defense is just such a tank. And offensively, the one chance that the Patriots will have is if they can get pressure on Sam Darnold and get him to start turning the ball over. He's due. I don't believe in Darnold. I'm on record. I don't believe in Sam Darnold in any type of capacity. I'll acknowledge he's improved as a quarterback. He's gotten with some really good coaches and he's been involved with some really good schemes here. Good job on him to really go to the right spots. But I still think Darnold shows his true colors at times when you really start to get to him. So I don't believe in him, but I don't think that Patriots defense is good enough to really rattle him the way that they'll have to. So I think the Seahawks blow them out, honestly. I could see it being like a 33 to 10 type of game to where it's a snooze fest by the time we get into the fourth quarter.
I mean, I like that. Alex, what are you thinking about that?
I like it a lot. I do like it a lot. I think Seahawks will win, obviously. Spoiler alert. I'll give my score prediction on Thursday. But yeah, I like that a lot. I think it was Super Bowl 48, year after the Ravens and Niners. I think that was the one. In MetLife, I want to say. So I can see the script there. I mean, Drake May hasn't convinced me, even with the whole MVP talk. He was, 5 touchdowns against the Jets. They left him in to throw a 5-piece. I don't get the whole non-usage of Trayvon Henderson. I thought he was, a focal point of the offense, throughout the year, and then they just stopped using him.
That boy been missing.
What sucked for me was in the fantasy semifinals. I lost my game because of that, but that's neither here nor there. But it's been the Ramondre show even since. I do have a question for you, Cordell. Obviously, a Commander fan. What's your expectation for the season? We've been talking about the Ravens for an hour and change, but the team in your heart. How are you feeling the Commanders this year? Jaden's coming back. What's the expectation
for next year?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to see them actually attack this offseason. I think they drastically fumbled last year's offseason. I think that they got too comfortable and they were riding the high of the miracle season that they had all the way to the NFC Championship game, and they pretty much punted on the offseason. I love the Laramie Tunsil trade, but I could have done without getting Deebo Samuel. All they did was get older, essentially, and they went into last year's offseason was like top 3, I think, in the league in terms of cap space, and didn't do anything with it. So they need a running back. I like Ja'Cory Crosby-Merritt, but you could upgrade. You could definitely upgrade. They've been searching for a safety since Sean Taylor. I'd love Caleb Downs. I'd absolutely love Caleb Downs. I just think they need more talent. They need more talent specifically at the skill positions. I am excited to see Jaden, who was injury riddled all year this year and actually played in every game as a rookie. I'm anxious to see him be healthy again. Same for Terry McLaurin, who missed training camp and like clockwork, soft tissue injuries. Now he's off and on throughout the year. Just such a weird year for them. But they do have to improve at the skill positions, get younger on defense, and stay healthy. I think I don't love their hires this offseason. I really don't. It wouldn't shock me if it goes off the rails next year and they're looking for a new head coach and Dan Quinn's out of there. It honestly would not surprise me at all. I'm hoping for the best, but my gut tells me next year will be mediocre at best.
That's painful to hear. Because I was at the Commander Ravens game in 24, and it was like such an electric atmosphere. Like when both teams are good, it's so good for the DMV. Like that game, like it was like the tickets to get in were really expensive. It was a good atmosphere. So
the tailgates were great. It was packed out there.
That was such a fun game, dude. Man.
Yeah. The Battle of the Beltway, always gonna be legendary. I mean, I would love to go to one of those games one day, but I think you're right, Cordell. I think that the Commanders definitely do have a skill issue. I mean, not a skill issue, but a talent issue on that roster. And like you said, I mean, having all that cap space and doing next to nothing with it, kind of unacceptable, right? I mean, I look at it like this. They should have had a similar. They should have realized a similar success that the Patriots did this year, right? I mean, you get a second-year quarterback. You get a coach who's getting redeemed, who's redeeming himself. They should have went all the way. I mean, and you talk about next year, it's only going to get tougher. I think that the Eagles are going to retool. I think that the Cowboys are going to retain George Pickens and, of course, CD Lamb, and they're going to be just as dangerous next year. And then, of course, you got the Giants, who've got that young nucleus and a new head coach who's going to disseminate his message throughout that locker room, and I think it's going to resonate with those guys. I mean, I think it's just going to do one man's trash is another man's treasure, and I think that that's what you're going to see in New York. So it's not going to get any easier for the Commanders at all. But, being from there, my dad's a Commanders fan. I hope they do well. I always have a little special place in my heart for the Commanders, so I hope they do well. 86 goes with the Super Chat donation, says Super Bowl is on my mom's birthday, so I know my sister is about to throw down in the kitchen. Fat boy frolicking. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, that's what's up. That's what's up. I can't wait for the Super Bowl meals, man. I cannot wait for the Super Bowl appetizers, all that good stuff. Let me see. Void says in here with a Super Chat donation. Appreciate you, Void. Void says, anybody watching the Pro Bowl, which I think takes place tomorrow, or am I wrong about that?
I think so.
What are they even doing this year?
When the Pro Bowl is, that kind of
exactly
that question. I don't know when the Pro Bowl is. I won't be. I won't be.
I think the
right. I won't be. I'm not going to be there.
No.
I think it's tomorrow. I believe in the flag football too.
Yeah, I did see a clip of like Roquan being like overly serious about the Pro Bowl, and like Kyle Hamilton just standing next to him, like, dude, this is basically Cancun. Relax. You know what I mean? Like, so that was pretty funny to me. Last one here. Coming from Pick Six Flipper, appreciate that. Dropping the 2-piece in the chat. Says, I don't believe in Darnold, but I do believe in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Is Charbonnet playing?
No.
I know.
He's out. Yeah, he's out.
Which is honestly a blessing in disguise because it forces them to lean into Kenneth Walker the way that they should be. You talked about fantasy earlier, Alex. I mean, Charbonnet, probably public enemy number one in fantasy football because he's been a vulture all year. It just makes no sense with this. I really hate this new version of the NFL where it's become a cool thing to put the backups in the red zone. I thought you want your best backs in as you get closer to the end zone, but what do I know? Obviously, I'm an idiot, and you should be looking to put in your second and third string running back as you get closer to the red zone. It's mind blowing, but Charbonnet has not being there has done nothing but kind of spotlight how good Kenneth Walker really is.
Yeah. And I think, again, I mean, you talked about that Seahawks defense. Just getting back to that really quick. I think that 12th man is going to show up at the Bay on this Sunday night, and they are going to be all over the Patriots. Again, surprise, surprise, my pick for Thursday, but I tend to agree with Cordell and his assessment there. Okay. Appreciate the Super Chat donation, Pick Six Flipper. Appreciate everybody who left a Super Chat donation on this episode of the show. Appreciate everybody who gifted memberships, and shout out to everybody who received a gifted membership. And that was a whole lot of that was going on because, again, guys, in case you're not aware, we are doing a Lamar Jackson jersey giveaway this Thursday. This Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on the Purple Rain Podcast YouTube channel. If you want to enter for a chance to win that Lamar Jackson jersey, all you got to do, simply join our channel membership. It's right underneath this video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Twitter right now, which I know a lot of you are, shout out to you guys. Make sure you come over to YouTube, Click that subscribe button. Also, join our membership, and you'll automatically be entered for a chance to win a Lamar Jackson jersey, color of your choosing. Also, please be sure, guys, like this video. Please leave a thumbs up on this video and subscribe to the channel as well if you are new here. We'd appreciate that. Of course, like I said before, we have daily Ravens content coming out for you all throughout the off season, guys. So if that sounds good to you and you enjoyed this episode, you enjoy our show, please, again, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Again, we appreciate our guy, Cordell Woodland, coming through. Let's clap it up for him. Clap it up for Cordell, always coming through, always giving some great insight. Cordell, let us know where we can find you, man.
Yeah, man. Appreciate y'all having me. As always, you could follow me on any social media at Cordell Woodland. You could check out my show, The Fresh Take. We're typically on Thursday evenings. No show this week because we got Maryland basketball on air, but typically you can hear us on the Fan Thursday evenings. And you can also watch us because our show live streams on YouTube as well. So just follow me at Cordell Woodland and keep up to date with all the reports that go out and show updates as well.
Absolutely. And make sure when you're watching those Ravens pressers, you listen out for Cordell Woodland. He's asking some great questions to these guys who are standing up there on the podium. So I always listen for that. I was live last week during the introductory presser for Jesse Minter, and when I heard your voice start to answer the question, I was like, all right, everybody mute up. Cordell about to ask he about to ask a real question here, and you did, man. You did not disappoint. You never do. Again, the Ravens community in general just appreciates you, and of course, you really started to really come to the forefront of Ravens flock last offseason when you were doing the after training camp videos and stuff like that. Cannot wait. I am looking forward to all that type of content this upcoming offseason. And if you are looking forward to that type of content as well, again, be sure to follow Cordell Woodland on Twitter and all platforms as well, and catch him on his shows, everything like that too. Again, Cordell, we appreciate you. And until next time, it's been great. And with that being said, I'm gonna let my guy Alex take us out of this one.
Thank you for coming through episode 376 of the Purple Rain Podcast. We love you. Appreciate you. As always, stay positive and test negative.
Yes. And never, ever forget, even on the rainiest of days, to call God. This is episode 376 of PRP. We're going to catch you guys in the next video. Peace.